Our own son locked us in the basement of our own home and shouted, "This place belongs to us now." Before we begin, just a small request. Hit the like button to support our stories. And tell me in the comments where you're watching from and how you're doing. Don't forget to subscribe so you never miss a new story. Your one like, one comment, and one subscribe truly encourages us and keeps us going. Now, let me tell you what happened next. I have lived in this house for nearly 40 years. I know it sounds the way I know my own breath. In the mornings, sunlight slips through the pecan trees and settles gently on the wooden floors. At night, the beams creak softly, like an old body finding rest. This home was built by my father-in-law, not as a trophy, but as a promise, a place meant to protect generations. That morning, I was cooking chicken soup. Simple, familiar, the kind my husband, Cornelius, still recognized even after his strokes dulled so much of his world. As I chopped carrots, I remembered teaching our son Travante to cook right there at the counter. He used to stand on a stool, grinning proudly, calling himself a chef. That memory shattered when my daughter-in-law Kesha walked in. "Again," she said sharply, "you really can't learn anything new. This isn't good enough for Travante." She never called me Mom, only Miss Adela. Cold, precise, distant. They had moved in 3 years earlier, after Cornelius fell ill. We gave them the upstairs master suite. We took the smaller room downstairs so my husband wouldn't struggle with stairs. Slowly, the house stopped feeling like ours. Her perfume replaced the smell of old books. Her furniture replaced my father-in-law's chair, the one he read newspapers in 4 decades. At lunch, Travante finally spoke. "Mom, we need to talk about the house," he said without looking up from his phone. "You should sign it over to me. Just paperwork. Makes things easier." My hands went cold. "No," I said quietly. Kesha leaned forward. "You're being selfish." That's when Cornelius appeared in the doorway, weak but clear-eyed. "You are a disgrace," he told our son. Travante exploded. He grabbed us, dragged us down the hallway, opened the basement door. Cold air rushed up. Darkness swallowed us. The door slammed shut. The lock clicked. I held my husband as we sat on the stone steps, shaking until he leaned close and whispered words that changed everything. "Be quiet. They don't know what's hidden behind that wall." What secret could possibly be hidden in the basement wall? And how could it destroy everything my son thought he owned? The house went silent after their car pulled away. No voices, no footsteps. Just the slow drip of water somewhere in the dark. Cornelius squeezed my hand. "Help me up," he whispered. Step by step, we descended the narrow basement stairs. The air smelled of damp earth and old years forgotten. The only light came from a thin line under the door above us. Shelves lined the walls, empty jars coated in dust, shadows stretching like long fingers. But Cornelius didn't stop at the shelves. He guided me to the far wall, the foundation itself. Rough stone, cold, ancient. "My father showed me this when I was 18, he said between breaths. He told me it was only for the worst day imaginable." His fingers searched the stones until he stopped. "Here," he whispered. "Press here." "I'm too weak." I pressed. One stone shifted. It slid inward with a low scraping sound, revealing a hidden hollow in the wall. Inside sat a small, rusted metal box light, old, forgotten by time. A tobacco tin. We carried it back to the steps and sat side by side. Cornelius struggled to open the latch, his hands trembling. When it finally clicked open, I held my breath. Inside were not jewels, not money, only folded papers, yellowed, fragile, important. The first document made my heart stop. A birth certificate. The name wasn't Cornelius Dubois, it was Cassius Thorne. Place of birth, a prison hospital in Mississippi. I stared at it, confused. "What is this?" I whispered. Cornelius swallowed. "That's who I was before your father gave me his name." The next paper was an adoption decree. Cassius Thorne, legally adopted by Langston Dubois. New name assigned, Cornelius Dubois. Then came a letter. I recognized the handwriting immediately, my father-in-law's steady, careful script. He wrote of a brilliant scientist, falsely accused, a man destroyed for refusing to betray his principles, a friend lost to prison and silence, and a promise to save that man's son. Cornelius had lived his entire life carrying a name given to protect him, a name meant to shield him from a past the world still feared. And our son had built his pride, his status, his arrogance on that very name, never knowing the truth. As I folded the letter, something inside me hardened. I wasn't just holding a family secret. I was holding power. And for the first time since that basement door slammed shut, I realized something terrifying and clear. They thought they had trapped us, but they had handed me the key. If the truth about the Dubois name came out, my son wouldn't just lose the house, he would lose everything. They unlocked the basement hours later. Travante stood there pretending to be kind, asking if his father needed a nurse, acting as if nothing had happened. I looked at him and felt nothing, no anger, no fear, no love, just clarity. Yes, I said calmly, he needs care. Give me your phone. He hesitated, then handed it over, satisfied. He thought I was broken. He thought I had surrendered. He was wrong. I didn't scroll through his contacts. I dialed a number I had memorized years ago after reading an article about a woman known for fighting impossible cases. The line clicked. Veda Sterling speaking. My name is Adela Dubois, I said evenly. I need your help, urgently. That single call changed the balance of power in my house. The next few days, I became invisible, and that was my advantage. I cooked, I cleaned. I spoke little. They stopped hiding their plans in front of me. Kasia talked openly about tearing down walls, selling the old books, turning the study into a modern bar space. They spoke as if I were already gone. Then they came to me with their final kindness. Mom, Travante said gently, we found a beautiful senior living community for you, safe, comfortable. You'll be happier there. Kasia squeezed my shoulder. You deserve rest, Miss Adele. I looked at them and understood something painful but freeing. My son no longer saw me as a mother, only as an obstacle. That's very thoughtful, I said quietly. Let me think. They smiled, convinced they had one. The next morning, I told them I needed to go to the pharmacy in town for a rare medicine. They gave me taxi money like a favor granted to a child. Instead, I walked into Veda Sterling's office. She didn't interrupt as I spoke. I told her everything, the basement, the threats, the demand for the house. Then I placed the tin box on her desk and laid out the documents. She read in silence. Then she looked up, eyes sharp. This isn't just a family secret, she said. This is leverage. She explained what the Dubois name meant in certain professional circles. How reputation, lineage, and legacy were currency. How one stain could collapse an entire empire. If this truth becomes public, she said carefully, your son won't just lose the house. He'll lose his career, his connections, his standing. I nodded. I don't want revenge, I said. I want my life back. She smiled slightly. You'll get justice. And more. I went home and waited. They laughed upstairs. Ordered furniture. Planned renovations. They didn't realize the ground beneath them had already cracked. When the doorbell finally rang 2 days later, I didn't rush. I walked calmly into the living room, because I knew exactly who was standing on the other side of that door. They believed they owned the house. Until my lawyer stepped inside and proved everything they relied on was a lie. When the door opened, my son's smile vanished. Veda Sterling stood in the doorway, calm and precise, holding a thin legal folder. Behind her was a courier with an official envelope. I'm here on behalf of the legal owner of this house, she said evenly. Adela Dubois. Travante laughed, sharp, nervous. That's impossible. Kesha rushed forward and pulled a document from a drawer. We already have the deed. It's signed. It's legal. Veda glanced at it once. Interesting, she said. Especially since the notary who supposedly signed this document passed away 2 years before the date listed. The room froze. Veda continued, voice steady. This is a forgery. And forgery involving real estate is a felony. Kesha's face drained of color. Travante stepped back, stunned. And now, Veda added, there's another issue. If you plan to challenge the will, you'll need to prove you're a legitimate heir to the Dubois legacy. Travante straightened. I am a Dubois. Veda paused. That would require a public and complete review of your family lineage. Silence crashed into the room. Travante understood immediately. His confidence collapsed. He didn't know the full truth, but he knew enough to fear it. 3 days later, he called a family meeting. Certain public pressure would crush me. Relatives, business partners, everyone whose opinion mattered to him. He spoke first, painted himself as the devoted son. Me as a confused old woman, manipulated by a lawyer. Then Veda placed 2 documents on the table. The forged deed. And the proof? The room turned cold. Then it was my turn. I didn't shout. I didn't accuse. I spoke of legacy. Of a man who saved a child by giving him his name. Of a house built on love, not entitlement. Of how that name was never meant to be used as a weapon. People stood up. One by one, they left. Travante's partners. His allies. His power. By the end, he stood alone. 6 months later, the house is quiet again. Cornelius passed peacefully. I buried him beside the man who gave him a second life. Travante disappeared from my world. I don't search for him. I don't wait for him. The basement is no longer dark. It's my archive now, my place of truth. I finally returned to myself. Not as someone's wife. Not as someone's mother. Just free. So tell me, where do you think a mother's forgiveness should end? And when does self-respect begin? Share your thoughts in the comments. Like, subscribe, and I'll see you in the next story.